Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to yield such time as he may consume to Mr. King of New York, the ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee.
The gentleman is recognized for such time as he may consume.
I thank the gentlelady for yielding, and I also appreciate the opportunity to take part in this debate, which, as my friend from New York, Mr. Rangel, said, is a historic debate, and it is part of our job. It's our obligation, it's our legal obligation, it's our moral obligation to be heard on the most pressing issue of our time. I would also add at the outset, when we talk about those who have died in Iraq, and all of us go to the wakes and the funerals of those who were killed in our district, just the other day, if we're talking about the quality or the type of person or where they come from who was killed in Iraq, there was a young man who was actually in what used to be part of my district, very affluent area, Manhasset. He was a graduate of Duke University, All-American lacrosse player, was offered a scholarship to law school, but he turned it down to go in as an enlisted man, as an Army Ranger. He served in 2 tours in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan, and he was killed on his 3rd tour in Iraq. And his family was proud of what he did, what he accomplished, what he stood for. And I think it doesn't really add to the level of debate to somehow be suggesting that those who go to Iraq are there because they can't be anywhere else, or somehow it's all driven by economic need. He was a young man who had everything in front of him. He had all the opportunity in the world, and he went, he joined the Army, went in as an enlisted man, died as a sergeant, and he was on his 3rd tour in Iraq. So I think it's important to put that on the record, and also I know there's any number of members in this body who have had members of their family serving in Iraq. So I think if we are going to talk about, the gentleman from New York wants to bring back the draft, we can have that in a separate debate, but I don't think it should be part of this debate. Now, when this debate was first scheduled, I actually thought it was going to serve a constructive purpose, but as I look at the resolutions being offered, if I could really, I guess, quote from Senator Lieberman of Connecticut, rather than a resolution, it's really a resolution of irresolution. It's inherently contradictory because it pledges support to the troops, but also at the same time washes its hands of what the troops are attempting to do. And I've heard speaker after speaker get up here today and say the new policy cannot work. The new policy is more of the same. This is the president's policy. He hasn't gotten the message from the American people. Well, the fact is, this policy is strongly supported by the new commander in Iraq, General Petraeus. As has been pointed out, the Senate unanimously approved the appointment of General Petraeus by a vote of 81-0. Now, for people to come here today and say that this is an inherently flawed policy, this is a policy that cannot work, this is a policy that's doomed to failure, to me, after General Petraeus has said that he believes the policy can work, that he supports the policy, is to attack directly either the credibility or the competency of General Petraeus. And that is a terrible message to be sending to our troops. And actions do have consequences. I don't doubt the good faith of anyone on either side of the aisle when it comes to supporting the troops. But the fact is, often you have to think beyond the actual words you're saying and realize the consequences those words have. For instance, my good friend, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, who I actually traveled to Iraq with in 2003, where we met with General Petraeus and others in Mosul and with our troops in Baghdad. He said that we have to, that Iraq is a mess and we have to end the nightmare. Does anyone really think by Americans pulling out, the nightmare is going to end, that the Middle East will become stable if we leave? Certainly Al-Qaeda doesn't believe that. Certainly the mullahs in Iran don't believe that, and also our allies don't believe that. So I think we have to, again, what are the consequences of our actions? Are we saying just draw down for the sake of drawing down? I heard the distinguished Speaker of the House of Representatives say our goal is to get our troops home. Well, I would say our goal should be to have our troops come home after we have achieved a goal of at least a stable Iraq. An Iraq which is able to protect its borders against Iran, an Iraq which is able to prevent Al-Qaeda from setting up a privileged sanctuary in Iraq, and an Iraq which is able to create a situation in the north where the Kurds and the Turks are not fighting with one another. So these are all serious issues that have to be addressed, and I regret to say this resolution does not address it in any way. If anything, it's a serious step backward. Now, also we've heard that we have to listen to the polls. We have to listen to what public opinion happens to be at any particular time. Well, if anyone wants to go back and look at the polls, in 1952, President Truman's popularity rating was 22%. The war in Korea was amazingly unpopular, and yet today he's acknowledged as one of our greatest presidents, and the war in Korea is looked upon as has been an indispensable step in the defeat of communism, because it drew the line in Asia at the 38th parallel. So that war is now looked upon as something, and I know my good friend Mr. Rangel served in Korea, he was wounded in Korea, and he performed valiantly in Korea. And that war now is looked upon as one of the linchpins of the Cold War strategy, which again brought down the communist menace. And also, as I try to research this, I'm not aware of any time in the entire history of our country where the United States Congress has adopted a resolution questioning a particular battlefield strategy. Like them or not, and I certainly support them, but the President is our Commander-in-Chief. And I said the same thing when President Clinton was our Commander-in-Chief. And I was serving in this body at that time with this tremendous criticism directed at him. But the fact is, the President, no matter which party he or she happens to be from, is the Commander-in-Chief. And we are at war. And it was a war that was authorized by this Congress. And we should not be, I don't believe, setting the precedent of adopting resolutions questioning specific strategies. Should we have adopted a resolution in the winter of 1944, 1945, questioning President Roosevelt's strategy and allowing the intelligence failure which brought about the Battle of the Bulge? We can go step by step, certainly when President Lincoln, during the Civil War, when strategies were changed throughout the war and finally resulted in a victory. And also we have to realize that the war in Iraq is part of an overall war against Islamic terrorism.